Good evening and welcome to Think About It Using Common Sense. Um, I haven't been on a couple of days. I don't have like a regular schedule sometime because I get so disturbed, which I shouldn't, but at the lack of common sense that people have. Um, for instance, I was reading in the paper and they had this article about birds and longevity. And so what they were saying, well, maybe they could, you know, do research on the birds to find out what it is that make them live a long time and pass that down to humans. But when you think about it, using common sense, birds in nature, all that's all they are. They birds and they just do what birds do. And I guess in doing what birds do, it just automatically uh, increase their lifespan. But when you're talking about doing that to humans and think about it using common sense, we do it. Our lifestyle shortens our life, shortens our longevity process, and it just do everything that's harmful to the body. We do it to ourselves from not living properly, not thinking properly. So I think that's part of the problem is that we look to all these different Alexas and all this stuff and salves and creams and all this to make you look younger, and you take all this stuff to make you feel younger. But at the same time, does it really work, or is it just merely prolonging the inevitable instead of living right, which I think 10 out of 10 people, if you ask them, uh, how are they living? And I would willing to bet each and every one would say they're not living right. They're either smoking too much, they're drinking too much, they're eating too much, they're having too much sex, or they're eating the wrong things, they're not sleeping enough. You know what I'm saying? So, and when you look at it, aging process is simply a deterioration of the body through time. That's why some people look different than other people that have lived the same amount of years, but when you look at them, they look different. And that's based on their lifestyle. And these are things that we need to focus on. And at the end of the day, it's all common sense. And it seems to me we've gotten away from it. And I was just thinking a minute ago, we talk about nature. So when you talk about nature, you're talking about, you're out in the forest, you're talking about the trees, and you're talking about a connection. But you don't have that connection living in modern day society in apartment buildings or living here or living in the city. You don't have that. Your uh, contact with nature is concrete. And then when you talk about concrete, think about it using common sense now. Now, we were we have this connection with nature, and our body has developed around our environment. So that's why shoes with rubber bottoms uh, became so popular because we weren't supposed to be walking on concrete because something has to give. And if concrete isn't giving, so that means your joints is going to give. standing. You know, we are adaptive to uh, everything that we do, everything that we think over time. It manifests in us in one form or another. And this is what we have to think about. This just doesn't happen, people. Doesn't happen because of reasons. Um, when you get on all these people in the country with diabetes, babies, diabetes. Why? Consumption of sugar. Sugar is deliberately sweeteners deliberately put into things to make junkies out of your taste buds so you can buy these things. I mean, how you feel in your health is not even considered when these mega business people come out with products that they know they know the stuff is bad for you when it comes off the press. But it's not about you, it's about the money. The only thing about you is how to get you to spend your money. And that's the bottom line. And it's time for you to use some common sense. If you don't take time out and start paying attention to yourself, because that's all you have. Your sanity, your mind, and your body. That is all you have. If that gets uh, off track or messed up, then you know what? You are off track and messed up. Your life is off track and messed up. So it just doesn't even make sense to people to self abuse themselves like they do. But again, that you're junkies, man. People are made junkies, and they live, and also people live above their means. When you think about it, I mean, if you're making uh, however much money you're making, but if you're not making a minimum 80,000, think about it. If you got to work 2 or 3 jobs to maintain your livelihood, then you need to cut back on your livelihood because you have no life. The title of this podcast is Losing Yourself in Living. And this is what's being done every day. And for what? For what? You go out, for an example. I'm only trying to ignite some common sense so you can start thinking about things. You know, you go out and spend because now it's hard to go out. You go out for 2 people, it's hard to go out for dinner and not spend almost $100. That's just minimum, you know. And you figure 2 people, you go out to eat, you spend $100. How many hours do you have to work for that? Spend that 100. And if you spend that, if you're not saving money, you're never going to have anything. Never. And if you never been taught how to use money and the purpose of money, all we see is spending, man. They'll show you all this stuff to buy this and buy that and buy this and buy this, but they don't tell you to go check your budget and see if you can afford it. They don't tell you to do that, but they want you to spend, and that's all it's about. It's about finding a way to get you to spend your money. And aging, guess what? It's nothing wrong with aging, whether you is the problem is the condition that you're going to be in when you reach those years, and how you live your life is going to determine the condition that you're going to be in as you age. And that's even, and I mean, that's from the womb. That's from the womb, you know, feeding babies, giving babies breast milk. I think that's very, very important. And something else that they don't even talk about when babies, and I think the frame of mind that the mother and father is in at the time of conception is very important, because all that plays a part through the nervous system and it's connecting to the baby. That's why I've always said when they're talking about having using common sense, when they talk about having uh, test tube babies and cloning, sure, you can create a life, but you have to ask yourself, does that life have a soul? You have to ask yourself, because it's not going through that natural process. It's not going through that process of the nervous system, of that physical connection between the two. That's the whole thing about life. So anytime, anything when it comes to that is changed, taken out or added, it's not the same. You can make life, but if the life isn't made through the process that is natural, that we're supposed to go through, then things ain't the same. It's not the same. That's common sense. It's common sense. But we have seemed to be getting further and further away from common sense. We're getting further and further away from morality, uh, and I think that explains partly of crime today is being committed by younger and younger people. Young people, because one of the reasons, I'm not saying this is the total reason, but one of the reasons is they have no knowledge of they have no knowledge or no connection with their inner selves, with their godly selves, or the knowledge of their purpose. You know how wonderful it can be. They're so materialistic. They have and they've been put in front of. Uh, we also have to accept that we live in a violent society. You know, violence on televisions and video games. And, we have no role models, and so it's not that these kids, and not only that, they're being raised by uh, television. The mother, the father's working, um, and no real role models today. They just spend their time, social media and stuff like this. Well, and when it comes to that violent part, when you can watch violence, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go out and just start killing or start acting violent, but by you watching violence all the time, when you get into a situation, you will find yourself acting, reacting violently, as opposed to trying to find a common and cool, calm solution, because that has not been in in your way of living or in your environment. And so it's terrible. The world is terrible, and it's not getting any better. But the thing of it is, the crime, this type of crime, more and more of that is happening in the neighborhoods of the low income and the middle class 1 and 2. Because this is where the majority of it is. This is where they're not, the parents are struggling. You got uh, some neighborhoods have the influx of drugs, and parents have to work 2 jobs to maintain because of the cost of living, and the kids is practically raising themselves, a lot of, and there's a major problem with the disparity of wealth. You got 1% at the top, 90% of the wealth. Opportunities for the low income and middle class 1 and 2. And the reason why I say middle class 1 and 2, because the middle class is no longer the middle class it was years ago. So things are different. They're not changing for the better anyway. And people have got to start using some common sense and get this thing, try and get it under control. You gotta take control of your children. You gotta take control of your life. You got to start talking and have community meetings. You got to start saying, hey, look, what can we do to make the community better? And I mean, as far as uh, owning stuff in the community, coming together, to the point that if a property becomes available in your neighborhood, put together and see if the community can't buy it. Don't let these developers just come in and take over your neighborhood. And you see, they don't care. All they want is your neighborhood so they can come in and build and get you out. And then you got to charge you. Once you get out, you can't get back in because you can't afford it. So you've got to hold on because this is all we have. This is all we have. America is all we have. This is why you see such an influx of different nationalities of people, students coming here, going to these colleges. They're getting educated. You see people swimming across rivers and oceans and seas to get to America, dying to come over here. And I'm not saying America is the best country in the world, but what you see is what you see. They're doing it. And here you are living here, have these opportunities and not taking advantage of them. Um, the mayor, no, not the mayor, the governor, Shapiro, just elected. He said something today that um, I thought was really, really, really good. He said that these jobs, I think the city jobs or that's the government jobs. He said they're going to be now where it's no longer going to require people to have a college degree to get some of these jobs, because that's opening the door up so people can really get these jobs. Because a lot of students, they want to go to college and they can't, but they're not. These kids are not stupid. But if you're not being taught or educated properly, or see to it that you have a chance to get something, even though you can't go to college, then that could make you a better student in high school or trade school or any uh, form of education other than going to college. At least hey, you know what, I can do that. And this type of thinking has got to be instilled in these children, the importance and the seriousness of living, of having a future, and the seriousness of not having a future if you don't get educated and educated properly. Get these drugs out the neighborhood, and a lot of it is some of this stuff right now. It's just like you're still gonna have people falling by the wayside. You can't stop that. But we can create jobs and opportunities. Take these kids, give them an interest other than just thinking you just stay on the corner. Oh, we got to make money is be on the corner and sell drugs or something like that. And these pharmaceutical companies making all these fentanyls and all this other kind of stuff, these drugs that you know what? It's just insane. And people, we have got to stop being victims. We have got to stop being used. And this is what's happening. You've got to stop it. You've got to stop it. You've got to pick yourself up by these bootstraps, as tough as it is, and stop it. I mean, the other night I heard on the news somewhere, uh, three three kids got shot, young adults in their early 20s. Three was dead. One was in the hospital. The other day, three was shot. 6-year-old, 6-year-old had a gun and shot his school teacher. He could have killed her. This is a kid. That's why I say all the time. I say, you know what? These kids are kids, and there's enough blame to go around. No way in the world that kid should have gotten a gun. No way. I don't care what the parents say. The parent can say what they want to say. That gun should have been locked up. And I mean, it happened, and thank God that the woman, the teacher, didn't die. But she could have died. The bullet could have been in her head. But people you got to be responsible for these things. You've got to be. And that is part of the problem. Too much stuff is getting, is people are getting slaps on the wrist for things that they should get some knockout blows from. Something like this should not happen. You know, all these kids getting killed and with guns and all this stuff should not be happening. But it's happening to us. The rich people, the politicians. I mean, they might pass a bill for this or argue about this and that, but that's affecting us. They don't live in our neighborhood. And I don't know how I can say it. I make podcasts and I talk about it and talk about it. And I come in, I want to talk about some different stuff. But this is so important and it's happening every day. Every day. And if you could just stop and look and just get some common sense about the future if this planet lasts. Because people act like global warming isn't real. Common sense, it has to be real. And it doesn't take a scientist to tell you that. I'm still trying to find out what's taking the place of all this oil that's coming out of the earth. Oil wasn't put in the earth for automobiles. Excuse me. It's a lot of things, you know, uh, that is going to be uh, have to be dealt with in the future. Our children will have to deal with this stuff. They're going to have to deal with this with nuclear waste from these radioactive plants, man. The water. They're going to have to deal with the oceans being polluted. It's so, excuse me, it's so much stuff that's going to have to be dealt with, and they're not ready. I saw a movie tonight. I think it was titled 51, and it was about burning books in the future. And it's about, and it has a lot of truth to it too, because they was even talking about kids in the future won't even know what books are. And I'm looking at them, listen to that, I'm saying, that's possible. There's a lot of kids today, they don't read. Got a lot of adults who doesn't read, you know. But we have got to um, we got to get a grip on this thing. And you can talk and talk and talk and say what you're going to do, but if you don't do it, nothing's going to happen. And the world is moving. You know, the world is changing. You know, um, and I was this thing with uh, George Santos. This gave me a headache. And for George Santos to be exposed, politician, to be exposed for literally being a real life con man. I mean, I'm not talking about the lies because all of them lie, you know, do some underhanded stuff. This guy was a real live con man. Okay? Lied about everything. And they still find out things he lied about. And January 2nd, he was sworn in. The Republicans swore him in to Congress, I think it was. How is that possible, people? It's only possible if the American people sit back and let that happen. Now, if you have this type person and people like him in our government, what is the government going to be like? What is if you have a seed and plant a seed in contaminated soil, you're going to get contaminated fruit. And now he's under investigation for taxes. They said some he went in making 50,000, been in office 2 years, and now he owned say between $2 and $11 million. And all, I mean, come on. But I mean, all these parties, it seems like working for the government is it's a cash cow. Politics, cash cow. If it ain't that, if it's not the salary from the government, it's the fringe benefits. You get elected to do one thing, and that is to serve the American people and make this country to the best of your ability. Is not being done, people. It's not been being done, and it hasn't been done being done for a long time. This got to come to heed. And these Republicans, I mean, I'm not, you know, I'm only going on what's out there and what's being said and what's being shown. Now, we know what the January 6th committee showed. They went through the whole thing and they showed it. Okay? Uh, how it was an attempted coup, insurrection in our capital. It showed who instigated it, and they even locked up some people that was involved, and the people that was involved, they came out and testified. You understand? This wasn't made up. This was on television. Okay. And people still don't believe it, a lot of them. Which you believe whatever you want to believe. That's on you. But and then the Republicans was even offered to be a part of the committee, and they refused, except Kissinger and Liz Cheney. I think they refused. Yet they was talking about how the deck was stacked against Trump, but they didn't want to be a part of it. They tried to cover up the truth. They go in to testify. They take the fifth 300-400 times. Now, truth is the truth, man. Do you understand? You don't take the fifth unless you have something to hide. It's common sense. I don't care who you are. But people can't seem to understand this. Now, what I'm getting to now is, I think they said they found some secret documents uh, when Joe Biden was vice president. It was locked up in a cabinet or something. Okay. The lawyers found these documents. Okay. Right away, they called the archives and they did whatever they want to do to report it like they should. And now the Republicans are all up in arms. Oh, Joe Biden shouldn't have did this with those where he had he had secret documents and this and that, lock him up, blah, 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 kick him out. But Trump had these documents, took them to Mar. He took them to Mar-a-Lago. When they found out, he did not said he wasn't going to give them up because they was his. Republicans did not open their mouths. If anything, they said Trump should have them because Trump declassified them. He said they had to call the FBI to get them because Trump wouldn't turn them over. Now, how can you sit here and tell about what Joe Biden? You know, this is the kind of stuff that just gives me a headache, and I think this is why I'm getting ready to stop talking about this. I have to. I have to. It's not healthy. This is not a healthy environment to be listening to this mess each and every day. And then these same people that went against Joe Biden and said he stole the election, okay, and that Trump really won, and these people that supported the insurrection, that thousands of people, even some people have got lost their life, and these Republicans are still in office today. How is that possible? How is that possible? One lady, uh, I think she embezzled some money from some fund, and the amount of money she took was over 400. I think over $400,000 that she took. So she went to court. They found her guilty, and they're gonna sentence her to 3 years in prison. Okay, and send her to a federal prison. Now, federal prison, from what I understand, it's not like a regular prison. Federal prison, from what I'm understanding, it's almost like a country club. Now, 3 years, you done stole over 430,000 or 50,000, whatever it is. So you're looking at almost 130, maybe 135, $140,000 a year. Just sitting in a country club. What happened to the money? She had to pay the money back. I didn't hear anybody say anything about that. All I heard is saying she got goes to a federal prison for 3 years, and she stole 400 some $1,000. No, I mean, without sitting in a federal prison, 400,000, 400, 430,000 3 years. Don't tempt me, but but you understand what I'm saying. These people, and I'm not. If you do something, you have to be. You can't be above the law. You can't make it easy. You're making crime easy for people. You're making crime a profession. Hey, if I can go steal a couple million and I'm gonna get 5 years in a federal prison, you know, for for stealing $1 million, it's $200,000 a year sitting in a prison for 5 years. Come out, you got that million. No matter what you can do with that, you can start a good business with that. But it only happens for certain people to get these special privileges. Poor people, middle class, 1 and 2, you go steal 200, you go steal $200, you get 5 years in prison. Might get 10. Just like they had it even with the drugs. They had it set up whereas if you get caught with crack, it's automatically 5 years. Cocaine is a misdemeanor. I think that's what I heard. I'm not a justice person, but the difference is the people, the low income, the people in the low income neighborhoods smoke the crack, and the party upper middle class wealthy people, they did the cocaine. You see, but believe it or not, crack is just expensive, just as expensive as cocaine, from what I'm hearing. So it's all at the end of the day, though. It's all about the money. It's all about the money. You know, people that's all about those who can afford to have and those who can't. I read in the paper. This was some time ago, a few years ago. There's some people from Hollywood got caught dead in the hood buying crack. Yeah. So drugs don't have any name on it. Drugs don't care whether you're poor, rich, or what. You can get hooked. But the thing about it is, we have to get hooked on life. We got to get hooked on ourselves and realize that uh, nothing's going to change unless we change it. We want our neighborhoods, we can make it better. We can do things. We can take these children and teach them, give them jobs, teach them how to do things, teach them how to be plumbers, teach them how to be painters, interior designers, teach them how to make jewelry, teach them how to buy and sell jewelry, teach them how to open up a business, and teach them how to be chefs, and teach them how. I mean, all this stuff. We need to you replace one habit with another habit, and this is the solution to these problems. But what we are seeing is uh, problems that was there that we really didn't address, and we're seeing the fruition in our children, and it's not good. It's not good. And when you start just randomly, killing people, and you have to be cold inside, but they don't. It's all they know. If you don't know anything else, then that's what you are. I never I had to learn this. Uh, we're all made out of the same thing. You know, if I was born in China, I'd probably be speaking Chinese right now. I would be speaking Chinese if I was raised in China. And that's just the reality of it. We are who we are based on our environment, our teachings, and how we was brought up. That's all. It's not complicated. It's common sense. So, when people getting out here talking about, oh, I'm better than this person, better than that person, you look at how you was brought up. Look at how that person was brought up. That's why I get hard on people when they talk about how veterans get treated. Our veterans, man, and I'm a veteran. We went to war. We was out there fighting and dying, getting blown apart, and the families back home worried and stressing, you know, and for veterans to get treated like they get treated. Veterans have to get out here. I see veterans on the street with cups, you know, money. No veteran in this country should have to worry about paying a mortgage or paying rent or being in the cold in the wintertime or being hot in the summer. None. We all made the ultimate sacrifice, whether you was in the battlefield or not. When time for you to go to war, when you was called up, you went. You didn't run. If they had told you to go to the battlefield on the front line, guess what? That's where you would have been. And I grant you, so many veterans was there on that war, and you can't begin to express, especially if you haven't even been in there. You can't begin to express what the veterans and their families went through. But all veterans, all should get the benefit, the top benefits in this country for the rest of their entire lives. So don't and I'm not against help other people, but these veterans need to be taken care of. And I'm telling you the truth, they need to be taken care of and taken care of properly. And this ain't something that should have to be voted upon. Don't sit and tell me, oh, well, we got to vote on this. And the ones that's voting have never even seen a battlefield, never even seen the military. It's just time for this country to get on track. Get on track. Because we're losing it. We're losing the country. We're losing respect for our government, the people that's running it, and lost respect for a lot of them. The rules of laws and justice in this country, low, the lowest I've ever seen it. And that's because of the politicians, the people that's running it. You know, I mean, tax breaks. The rich got tax breaks. They got the best tax breaks. They already had it. The loopholes with the lawyers and stuff. You see what lawyers can, if you got money, you see what lawyers can do for you. Lawyers can keep you out of jail for 10, 20 years. Might keep you out for life. They can. No. You got enough money, you can buy anybody. And this is the reality, man. Only thing I'm saying is we have to change. And these people with all this money at the top got to turn some of that stuff loose. And the people on the bottom, you still got to do better. You got to get educated. You have to do better. You walk through your neighborhood, you see some paper on the street, pick it up. Your neighborhood where you live, get a broom, sweep the streets. That's where you live. Take pride in yourselves and pride in where you live. Because when it goes down, it's not coming back up. Forget it. And that's the reason I be out talking. Because I've seen it, I see it. I'm blessed to have this wisdom to see things, to have some common sense. I see it happening. They talk about uh, 20, 2035 is gonna be, they're not going to make any more gasoline engine cars. They're all going to be electric. So if you can't pay electric now, how the heck are you going to pay when you have an electric car? Not only that, you're not even going to have a job. They talk about jobs. People, we're losing jobs. Losing jobs. I went to the bank today, and it was only two people. It was only two people in the bank, one cashier and one person in the office. That was it. That's it. But I guess that's all it needs to be. I guess it depends on the neighborhood. But I mean, my neighborhood's not that it's not that bad. But I'm just saying automation. You go in supermarkets, you go drugstores, everything self checkout. Coming up with self-driving trucks. Self is coming out with soon self-driving buses. Hmm? Somebody told me they went in a restaurant, they had robots in the restaurant waiting tables. They got machines to wash dishes. When it comes to accounting, you know how computers can do. You know? In the fields, I saw this machine today. This machine, it was like something that was folded up. When that machine unfolded, it could go there and look like it could cut like maybe 4 or 5 blocks of corn, just cut it down at a time. You know, it would take 300 people to do what that machine was doing. So at the end of the day, when they saying people are not coming to work, well, these people, that's business people, they're figuring out ways to not have to worry about whether or not someone is coming to work or not. They're working on replacing you. They're working on replacing you. And once you're replaced, you're replaced. If you don't have no education, man, you don't have no money, and like even now, some of these realtors that are shooting themselves in the foot because these high prices. But what's happening is um, they're going to hold out because they're not building, putting all this money in these properties just to open them up for low income, low income people. They're not going to drop the rent. So uh, what they're going to do is just maybe build some properties specifically for low income people. And those houses, I mean, properties going to be built. It's not going to be, especially if they're in the city, they're not going to be built. Uh, they only be built. In other words, they can only build them to last so many years because as the property location develop, they're going to tear them down and then build some state of the art apartment buildings, apartment complexes. Then the people that's living there are going to have to move. That's the pattern. That's what they do. So that's why it's so important for people to own. But if you don't own anything, you don't feel attached to anything. But at the same time, you can't just continue to spend, spend, spend. You have to save your money, and you have to have some trust. And it's okay. You don't have to be the leader of anything, but just be a part of it. Everybody have a part in something. You just can't let people come in, put up a sign, oh, we buy houses. And they come and give you a few $1,000s for your house, and the house is worth 300 or 400,000, but you don't know because you're not in real estate. You don't even know what your house is zoned for. So a lot of these things that we need to pay attention to. Um, so that's one of the things that just really, really, a couple of things that just bothers me, man. And I don't know. I know one thing that they're talking about building a uh, basketball stadium down in Chinatown. Yeah, man. They up against something. People in Chinatown are saying no. Telling those business people, those money people, no, you're not gonna come in and put that stadium in our town, get rid of our businesses and turn our town into to a playground. People just coming in and drinking beer and partying and all that stuff, loud noises and this and that. No, they sticking together. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they don't build that stadium there, even as much money is behind it. But those people stick together, man. And they own stuff there. They just can't come out and say, well, you don't own this, you gotta go. They own Chinatown. If enough people stick together, you can't come in and just take them people's property like that. I know they have a thing called eminent domain, but still, you just can't come in and take that if people stick together. But if you don't have anything, you can protest all you want, but if that belongs to somebody else, you got to go. And that seems to be the case with so many of us. We just don't own anything, and we just spend, 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 spend. I tell you, and wonder why you don't have anything. You can't have it. Let me see. I had something written here that I wanted to talk about. Let me see. Interracial process, people being farmed, uh, human implants for the body make up more. Uh, about implants, I was reading something the other day about humans and implants and the way they look and all that stuff. I said people need to pay more attention on what's happening on the inside as opposed to the outside. But in the material world, it's what's on the outside that counts, but not realizing that what's on the outside comes from the inside. Um, but anyway, that's what I really want to talk about this evening, and it's just this government, these politicians, people. It's you know what? I'm gonna say this before I go. It's the voters, it's the American people that vote these politicians in office. They can't do it if we don't vote them in office. They make promises, and when they get into office, they don't do it. Liz Cheney, I'm just using her as an example, but it's true. She was a Trump supporter. But when it got to a point, I'm not saying she could be just like the rest of them, but when it got to a point that she had to more or less give up her soul to support what Trump was about, she said, She said, I'm not going there. And for that reason, I respect that woman. And I think what's the name, Kissinger or something? I think he was also. And I really respect him for that. And what really straw that broke the camel's back, she lost her seat, was voted out because of the truth. She was voted out because of the truth, not because she told lies, man, because she told the truth. People need to think about that. You know, these are people regardless. These are the people that's running this country, and these are the people that's looking out for themselves. So if you're not in that 1-2%, then you fall under the umbrella just like everybody else. No, that color has nothing to do with that. This is money. And it can't. It just can't continue on like this without dire consequences. You know. and it's obvious. It's like they don't even they're not even trying to hide it. That's another thing that gets me. So they think we are just that stupid. Apparently, apparently, do people look up in it? You know, they talk about immigrants at the border. So I did. I googled up a little stuff about the immigrants. They say immigrants account for over $82.5 billion of money being uh, moved around in our economy. That they do, that they make 82.5 billion. Not to mention that I'm sure that when they come across the border, they get jobs and they don't get probably half of minimum wage. You know, because if they don't, who they gonna report it to? No one. They just glad to be here. You know? So people, we're gonna have to do things. We got to do things for ourselves. We got to stop doing all this stuff. Raise these kids right so they don't commit crime. Crime accounts for $3.5 trillion a year in this country. It's the kind of money crime generates, man. Over $3.5 trillion. It's business. But we don't have to, they can get money elsewhere. You know. But I always said, you know, we put ourselves in a ring of fire, so to speak, because you just can't pull $3.5 trillion out of the economy. You know what I mean? So a ring of fire means that all that type of action is part of the economy. You know, that's how it is now. People getting sick, part of the economy. But they need to focus on. I heard the nurses on strike because they're overworked. These kids, man, this work out here. These kids need to be in college. They need to be learning stuff. Get them off the street. Get them off these social medias. Get them off the different Instagram and all this kind of stuff. But if you don't get them off, they're gonna pay. They're gonna pay. But anyway, I enjoy talking. Hopefully, I will maybe tomorrow's Thursday, maybe Friday. Friday. But anyway, everybody have a good evening. It was really nice talk. Thank you.